Welcome, American Studies students, to my first screencast, and I hope this time together here, even though it's done through technology and the internet, will work well for your understanding of how to improve your assessment so that your first baseline assessment is better and your second assessment, which is due Friday, is done completely. So here are a few items that we want to go through. First and foremost, notice that your topic sentence, as you can see in the sample that I've created, hasn't really changed too much from the first topic sentence you may have created. For example, the environment and working conditions will be the focus for my paragraph, and I'm going to look at how the banana industry and environmental organizations are working together to make the environment and working conditions better in the process of making bananas. Now, you will notice that in the topic sentence, I have not included either article title. Again, by identifying one specific article, that really limits me to that one article, and it ignores the fact that I am using two different articles. So keep that in mind. You may have to adjust that topic sentence to make it more appropriate for this assessment. All right, from there, next you'll notice in the next couple of paragraphs, sentences of this paragraph, I've decided to just give my reader an understanding of the Rainforest Alliance and the environmental organization, the Rainforest Alliance, and its Eco-OK program and what it's attempting to do. Now, I know that's not specifically related to what the focus of the topic is for the paragraph, but I do think it's beneficial for the reader to have an understanding of who this environmental organization is and what it's attempting to do. From there, you can see that I'm going to really get into my first focal point for the paragraph, and that is the environment and the changes that have been made. So it's important that you transition by identifying the first point of your paragraph, and that being, for me, the environment. And as you can tell, I've used different examples here from the first article by Mackey, which would include solid waste traps, it includes water quality, it includes the dangerous chemicals, etc., that are being isolated in the warehouses. And you'll notice too then from the second of the two articles that I've used the recycling that's being done here with the 3,100 tons of bag and twine that's annually recycled as part of my proof as well that the environment is being made better by this banana industry. So using both of these articles, I'm taking what's logical regarding the environment from each and placing them near one another. And I think that's important for you to recognize that you have to decide which piece of information goes where and how it is you're going to provide it, as long as it makes sense in terms of how it's arranged in the paragraph. Now, another item we talked about is making sure that once you have your data, you are assessing it in your own voice, that you are telling us why it's important that you've chosen to select something about the solid waste traps or something about the water quality, or in this case, why it's important that 3,100 tons are being recycled. Now, again, I don't think it's necessary that you have multiple sentences that indicate why, but it should be clear. As you can tell here, I tried to indicate that, the ecosystem is going to be safer, the wildlife is going to be safer because of the measures being taken, whether it's water quality or keeping rivers from being contaminated, or even as you move down here, that the amount that's being recycled versus just discarded is impressive. And if you wanted to, you could even expand by talking about, since this is done annually, that over time the tripling or quadrupling of the tons that would normally have been just placed in the environment as it is now being recycled and used for a purpose like putting floorboards on a local bridge. So again, be really cognizant of that when you are writing the second paragraph, that you take some time to explain why it is that you're selecting the data that you are selecting and how it helps to prove your argument. Okay, next, I think it's, as you can tell here with this transition, one of the items that you're going to have to be aware of is that many of you are writing about the working conditions and the environment. So as you can tell by what you read here, I'm making a statement: besides environmental improvements being made, working conditions have also been altered for the better. So here you can see that I have transitioned away from the environment as part of my topic and moved more clearly to the working conditions. So be aware of that. And as you scroll down, you can see that, again, I have attempted to use examples both from Mackey and in regards to laundry facilities and shower facilities, and also the information here about green bananas and the aerial sprayings that are taking place. As you look more closely at this as well, I think you should recognize that my own voice comes through in terms of why these measures for worker safety are important. Again, not just telling you about shower facilities, but kind of projecting as to who benefits and how they benefit from removing the chemicals from their clothing, from their bodies, etc. So you can take the time to take a look at that, and it's just continuing our efforts to make sure that your voice, your analysis is being provided. Okay, so the next thing we're going to take a look at is the importance, as you see here, of documenting your sources. You'll notice that I've kind of color-coded some things here in red, and I've color-coded some ideas here in blue, just again delineating between Mackey's article being in red, that being Going Bananas for Eco Safety, and Rachel Jackson's Green Bananas being in blue. Now, there are a couple of ways that you can identify your source as you take information and provide it in your paragraph. Start with Mackey, first of all. As you can tell, in the first example here, I've chosen to place his last name in parentheses. We call that parenthetical documentation or insight documentation. So, I'm sorry, in text citing or documentation. If you look here, I have taken the quotation word for word. Now, this isn't something that was spoken by anyone particularly, but it was written by Mackey himself, and I liked how it was worded. So instead of borrowing or plagiarizing it, I chose to take it word for word and give him credit for that by identifying him in parentheses. I did the same thing here with his last name, and even though I didn't directly quote anything from the article, I was taking information, putting it into my own words or paraphrasing it, and recognizing that because it's not common knowledge to me, I had to identify that it did come from Chris Mackey's article. Okay, so that's one way you can do it, and you can see here in blue, I identify a different way you can make reference to an article and make sure you cited it correctly. In this case, you can see that I'm going to include information from Rachel Jackson's article, Green Bananas. So you could use the article title and the author's name within your own sentence as you're preparing to cite an example. Like in this case, again, the 3,100 tons of plastic bags and twine. If you look further down in blue, you can see where I identify similarly the article Green Bananas indicates that the plantations have posted schedules, etc., etc. But as I finish, notice that I have placed Jackson's name here at the end, just to be aware that simply stating stating what the article is isn't enough, that I should also identify who the author is in this case, just to make sure I've covered my citation thoroughly. One more observation to note here is similar to what I did with the Mackey quote up above. I chose to use another quote and took it directly from the text, and the quote is, the idea is to always be improving, and this is not the speaker of the quotation. Obviously, this is Jackson, the author. The speaker of the quotation is right here, and I used a signal phrase, which I think is critical for your writing as well. Don't just simply drop the quotation in there, but use a phrase, something like this, that tells us who Raul Pazzo is, what maybe makes him credible, and then it just makes it seem to flow more smoothly from your previous sentence to your next sentence. So again, if we take a look at what we just reviewed here in the last couple of minutes, making sure we document our sources correctly. Once again, you recognize that we have, in this case, for the advanced and proficient paper, we have, or I should say paragraph, we have an example of two different sources. So we have Mackey, we have Jackson, and we want to be sure to give credit to both authors as we use their data in our writing. Finally, we also should be aware of the fact that we will conclude this paragraph with a sentence that ties together everything that we've been talking about and brings your paragraph to a logical conclusion. And you can see that is there. And as I peruse the paragraph one more time, I think that's pretty much everything I want to make sure we covered. So we recognize that we, have maybe modified our topic sentence a little bit to better fit the idea for this paragraph with two different articles. Secondly, once we've given our data and we've logically placed our data in according to the structure of our paragraph, we want to make sure we have provide our own voices of analysis to tell why that information is important. And then, of course, we want to make sure we are citing of our text correctly so that we are giving credit to the proper individuals who wrote these articles where we found our information. And, of course, finish with a concluding sentence. So I hope this is helpful for you. If you have any questions or concerns, I know this is going to be a busy week for us with our school assessment, but by all means, you can stop by during an open lab of mine, or if you'd like to, you can go ahead and email me and I can get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks for listening, and hope it was helpful.